Centuries before planes, trains and merchant ships brought our world closer together, the Silk Road was the lifeblood of international trade. A trade route connecting China to Europe since 200 BC, the Silk Road was travelled by merchants of all nationalities in search of treasures, riches and life-changing adventure. My name is Graeme Langford, and in this series we're on an epic journey of discovery along the Chinese section of the Silk Road. Starting out in the ancient capital of Xi'an and finishing in the extraordinary Islamic city of Kashgar, we'll be exploring how the Silk Road shaped the places and the lives of the people in this part of the world. Our journey will take us through scorching deserts, soaring mountains, bustling cities and awe-inspiring ancient monuments, whilst all the while hearing the incredible stories of those people who make the region one of the most fascinatingly diverse places on the planet. Welcome to the Chinese Silk Road. Our journey begins right here, in the central Chinese city of Xi'an. As the ancient capital of China, this is where the Silk Road began, and it was from here that Chinese merchants started their 7,000-kilometre journey west to Europe. In its Silk Road heyday, Xi'an became the richest city in the world and was attracting traders and merchants from all across the globe, developing into a cosmopolitan city that was like nowhere else on Earth. Today, Xi'an is a thriving metropolis with a population similar to London, and yet it still doesn't even make the top 10 most populated cities in China. The Silk Road's influence on Xi'an can be most clearly seen in the city's Muslim quarter, so I headed in to check it out for myself. Islam itself travelled along the Silk Road and into China, and today Xi'an is home to more than 100,000 Muslims, with most of them being direct descendants of the Islamic traders from the West who chose to settle in Xi'an after their long journey on the Silk Road. Tucked away deep inside the Muslim quarter is a real gem of Xi'an, the Great Mosque. The mosque has stood in Xi'an since 742, and it is still the centre of Muslim worship in the region today. In the days of the Silk Road, many traders would come here before setting off in order to pray for a safe journey to the west.
现在的这个穆斯林呢，就是当时的海上丝绸之路和陆上的海上丝绸之路把伊斯兰教传到了中国，所以呢，这个西安呢也是个古都嘛，也是丝绸之路的起点。如果没有丝绸之路，就没有中国的回回民族，因为呢，我们的祖先阿拉伯人、中亚人、波斯人把伊斯兰宗教、文化、药材带到了中国呀。本清真寺呢是1273年的历史，这个在全中国就唯一这一座，叫汉唐风格宫殿式的一所伊斯兰寺院。你们看一下这个牌匾，这是我的太爷写的《古兰经》的开宗明义的首句 Bismillahirrahmanirrahim。穆斯林呢，比方诵读《古兰经》，屠宰动物、吃饭喝水、干美好的事，必须诵读这段经文的，也就是以真主的名义开始做事。全世界信奉伊斯兰的穆斯林念的最多的一个经文呢，就是这句。
It's a really calm and peaceful place to be here, kind of tucked away in the back streets of the Muslim quarter of Xi'an. It's really hard to believe, actually, that we're only a few yards away from the busy street that we were just on. You know, all of the noise and the action has just kind of fallen away and come down to peace and quiet. However, we couldn't stay relaxing at the mosque for long, as it was time to begin our journey west on the Silk Road. Leaving the city behind us, we are quickly enveloped by the vast beauty of the Qinling Mountains. Buried deep in the heart of these peaks is our next stop, the Xi'an Grottos. A series of cave shrines carved meticulously into the mountainside, Xi'an has been an important site of Buddhist pilgrimage for over 1,500 years. Construction of the grottos here in Xi'an began in the late 4th century. By the early 5th century, a monk named Tan Hung arrived here from Xi'an. Together with another monk named Xuan Gao, they built a thriving monastic community of up to 300 monks. However, Buddhism did not always have a smooth ride in China during this time. Under the new Beiwei dynasty, about 20 or 30 years after they had established their community, Buddhism came under intense scrutiny, where monks were killed just for practicing their beliefs. Tan Hung fled south to Cochin, China, or modern-day Vietnam. And it was here that, most probably in protest against the scrutiny that Buddhism was under in China at the time, that Tan Hung burned himself to death. It is, however, important to point out that the subsequent rulers of the Wei dynasty actively supported the practice of Buddhism, and thus Xi'an began to thrive and grow once again. It is Xi'an's position on a crossroads of the northern Silk Road and southern routes down to Southeast Asia that give it a rather unique flavour. Xi'an is widely regarded as the first meeting point between Western and Eastern Buddhism. And what is interesting about the sculptures and art here is that actually they display quite a large influence from India and even Southeast Asia. It's quite easy to see, even this early on in our journey on the Silk Road, the cultural clash that really happened in this part of the world. Continuing our journey west, it's not long before we arrive at the bustling city of Lanzhou. The capital of Gansu province, and often referred to as the Golden City, Lanzhou was a major historical link on the Silk Road. A place where tired travellers could rest and restock after a long and treacherous journey. Today, Lanzhou is most famous for one thing: noodles. Lanzhou really is the city of noodles. The locals here absolutely love them. A particular favourite is the local dish Lanzhou beef noodles, or Lanzhou la mian. Noodles themselves have a very important history on the Silk Road, with it being widely believed that Italy's pasta has its origins in China and travelled to Europe along the ancient trade route. Lanzhou la mian can be, and is, eaten at any time of the day: breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Here at the famous Tashan Banpo restaurant, the lunchtime rush has begun, and in the kitchen, the heat is on. In this part of China, this dish is considered to be an art, and the kitchen works in a beautiful, seamless clockwork fashion to serve up hundreds of satisfying bowls to the hungry masses. The noodle flour is first massaged into a huge doughy mass before being rolled and pulled skillfully into shape. Next, the noodles are tossed for a few minutes into the boiling pot before being served up into bowls. Finally, beef, onion, and chili are added to finish the job.
牛肉面，大街小巷都在传承。兰州牛肉面，只要提起兰州，兰州这地方咱们不知道，只要说是拉面，知道兰州，知道兰州牛肉面。出来的面一定要有劲道，均匀，出来的口感一定要好。假如师傅要是在手里面制作的过程中，要是感觉今儿这把面没拉好，他就不能扔锅里。
Just watching the noodle masters at work is absolutely mesmerizing. It is their commitment, skill, and incredible attention to detail that has made sure that these noodles have been a firm favorite for generations.
对我们来说，牛肉面怎么说呢？就是我们骨子里的一种习惯了。早上吃牛肉面是我的习惯，我已经坚持了20多年。
Since the days of the Silk Road, Lanzhou La Mian has filled the appetites of locals and travellers alike. Given the city's position, Lanzhou may well have been the last chance for traders heading west to have a wholesome meal before entering the barren deserts and difficult mountain terrain. So, as we were about to head that way ourselves, I decided to tuck in for myself. And it was everything that it had promised to be.
Good. Really good.
Soon enough, we are back on the road again, heading further west into Gansu province. Our destination is legendary in Chinese history. The great fortress of Jiayuguan. The furthest western point of the Great Wall, Jiayuguan was once the western border of ancient China and was a very important passage point for anyone wishing to enter or exit the country, including those trading on the Silk Road.
There is actually a really great story about the construction of Jiayuguan. Legend says that the planner said it would take 99,999 bricks to build, but his superiors questioned his accuracy, saying surely it would need more than that. So, the planner obliged, adding just one more brick to his calculations to make a nice round 100,000. However, when the construction was actually finished, there was of course just one brick left over, proving that the planner was correct. And that brick can still be seen at Jiayuguan today, and it is right there behind me. Amazing. And totally believable.
Over the years, with the rising threat of invasion by the great Persian conqueror Timur, walls were strengthened and the military presence increased. Tensions around the fortress were high in anticipation of war. However, an invasion never actually materialized, and no battles were ever fought here. This didn't stop Jiayuguan's reputation as a place of serious strength and power.
Jiayuguan has always had a fearsome reputation throughout history. Known locally as Graeme Guan, or the Gate of Demons, this, being the westernmost point of ancient China, is where any criminals, any wrongdoers, or simply anybody who fell out with the government at the time was sent out through the gate, banished from their home country. They were taken from their homes, from their families, from everything that they loved and everything that they knew, and out into the barren desert and the unknown. Many of them would never return.
Of course, for us to continue our journey, we would have to go through that same gate ourselves, tracing the footsteps of the banished criminals and brave Silk Road traders who passed through the gate and into the desert centuries before us. Next time on the Chinese Silk Road. Chinese legend says that many years ago, all of the dunes here were mountains, and in these mountains lived demons. Urumqi is a city that is bursting with culture and colour, and nowhere is that more true than right here, the city's Grand Bazaar. The Gobi Desert. Some of the harshest terrain for any merchant travelling on the Silk Road to cross. After endless days of travelling through the scorched land on camels, the exhausted eyes of pilgrims would fall thankfully onto the welcome sight of the Crescent Spring Oasis. In Chinese legend, this is reputed to be the first spring under the sun, and great tales emerged of the fabled powers of what lay beneath the surface of the lake. This spring is known amongst the Chinese as the medicinal spring because it is rumoured that inside there is a special plant called the seven-star grass and a special fish called the ironback fish. And if you eat both of these things, you will live forever. But it wasn't just the promise of immortality that brought curious travellers here for centuries. With a set of peaceful temples and a traditional pagoda lying on its shores, the spring also became a place of Buddhist pilgrimage, with thousands of pilgrims still coming here every year. One of the most interesting stories surrounding the spring is the ancient folktale of how it came to be. Chinese legend says that many years ago, all of the dunes here were mountains, and in these mountains lived demons. One day, a demigod named Zhang Guolao was travelling through here with his donkey. On the sides of his donkey, he had two large bags of sand, the purpose of which was to protect them from the demons in this area. However, on their travels they met a very mischievous young boy who proceeded to open the bags of sand on the side of the donkey. The donkey became very startled and ran all over the area, the sand pouring from his bags. The sand proceeded to cover the mountains in the area, and the donkey's hard stomp on the floor created the crescent lake behind. The sand covered the mountains entirely and kept the demons here locked away for eternity. On a windy day in this area, it is said that you can still hear the howls and the cries of those imprisoned demons. Regardless of its origins, the spring survival in the centre of the desert is nothing short of miraculous. This site would have been an extremely welcome pit stop for any Silk Road traveller. A place where they could rest, quench their thirst, or even fish for immortality if they were feeling lucky. Having spent all day battling through the dunes on foot, I decided that a change of tact was in order to take us to our next destination of Urumqi. It was time for the camels.
Okay, so now it's time to go. 骆驼到乌鲁木齐。
可以走了吗？
可以，
普通话挺好的。
谢谢啊。
But of course, the camels weren't really going to take us all the way. Instead, it was the turn of a real classic of Chinese travel. The sleeper train. Crisscrossing the nation, Chinese sleeper trains are a popular and cheap way to get around the country, with some passengers riding the rails for up to 3 nights in one journey. For us, it's just a one-night trip, in our cramped, yet cosy accommodation. In the morning, we awoke to find ourselves in the city of Urumqi, the capital of Western China's Xinjiang province. Urumqi is a city that grew alongside the Silk Road, developing from a mere tax collection point in the early days of the trade route into the major hub it is today. With a population dominated by the Uyghur ethnicity, who even speak their own Arabic-like language, Urumqi is a city that feels distinctly less Chinese, and a place that truly embodies the spirit of the Silk Road.
Urumqi is a city that is bursting with culture and colour, and nowhere is that more true than right here, the city's Grand Bazaar. The Grand Bazaar is absolutely overflowing with treasures and treats of the Silk Road, with everything from exotic fruits, cloths, jewellery, and musical instruments lining the stalls. Music is something that plays a large part in Xinjiang life, so we stopped off at a local music stall to find out a little bit more.
Uyg'urlar qadimdan tatib muzikani yaxshi ko'ramiz. Ota-bobolarimizdan tatib muzik chelishni yaxshi ko'rdi. Biz muzika orqali o'zimizni xushal-xuram kunlarimizni xushal-xuram o'tkazamiz. Qayg'u hasratlarimizni muzik chelish orqali ifodalaymiz. Men mishada muzikani yasayman, o'rib qolsam, saz chalaman. Saz chalsam mening ardiqim chiqadi. Men saz chelishni yaxshi ko'raman. Ulam yaxshi ko'rdi, buni ishtar dutlar, temburni chelishni yaxshi ko'rdi. Ulam ugunishni yaxshi ko'rdi, men ular ugutib qo'ymay olsam. Dutlarni yaxshi ko'rdi, ular dutdan chammaq oson, ishkitarlik bo'lgan ekan, ular yaxshi ko'rdi.
Craft of these instruments requires a lot of patience and careful attention to detail. The craftsmen spend large parts of their day carving the intricate patterns that you can see on the outside. The scale of their job becomes quite clear when you see the variety of instruments on show.
Ma dutlarning qo'sig'i cho'ng bo'ldi, ishkitarlik bo'ldi. Ma'vo simtarlik bo'ldi, 5 tarlik bo'ldi, uzun bo'ldi nimasi. Ma satarning 13 tarisi bo'ldi. Buni kamalchilar tatib chaldi.
Traditionally, these instruments would be played together in large groups at festivals and celebrations around the region. Today, however, having only himself to perform, the master was keen to show off his favourite, the sitar. anything that was traded in history along the Silk Road can still be found in the Urumqi Bazaar today. One of the most valuable and famously traded commodities has a particularly large presence in Xinjiang: woolen carpets. Almost every home in Xinjiang will have a carpet of this kind, making it one of the greatest cultural symbols of the local area.
丝绸之路开始的时候就有这个新疆的这个地毯生意。新疆我们这个新疆人家里都有地毯，因为这个是我们传统。如果现在丝绸之路和伊朗的世界最有名的地毯，然后阿富汗，然后我们这个和田，这些都是阿富汗的那些，这是阿富汗手工的，下面是新疆和田的，新疆和田羊毛手工做的，还有新疆的，还有看这个，这些就是新疆和田的手工地毯，这个毯子挺厚的，石榴花，这个图案很有名的，很有特色的。现在我们这儿也有各种各样的皮子，比如说牛皮啊，还有小鹿皮啊，狐狸皮、狼皮、野狗皮，还有各种各样的羊皮，新疆的羊皮啊，那些挺暖和，很好使用。还有这种的野狗皮褥子，这个冬天他们那个腰还有这个腿疼的人在上面睡躺着就不疼了，这个特别暖和特别热，这个东西。这个就是做民族乐器，钱包、皮包，还有这样子手提包做的那些东西。这个是一个牦牛的尾巴，这个撒衣服、撒灰的、撒家具。
Whilst the axe tail is no doubt useful for cleaning, it's probably not something you're going to find in Western homes anytime soon. Our time in Urumqi was now coming to a close. A fascinatingly diverse city, it had been a great respite from the heat and exhaustion of the desert, but it was now time to get back out there and continue our journey deeper into Western China. Next time on the Chinese Silk Road.
Traders and farmers have come from all over the province, bringing almost any kind of livestock imaginable. Welcome to the Kashgar cattle market. The centuries-old buildings and the twisted, winding, cobbled streets really give this place a unique and almost timeless feel.
Centuries before planes, trains and merchant ships brought our world closer together, the Silk Road was the lifeblood of international trade. A trade route connecting China to Europe since 200 BC, the Silk Road was travelled by merchants of all nationalities in search of treasures, riches and life-changing adventure. My name is Graeme Langford, and in this series we're on an epic journey of discovery along the Chinese section of the Silk Road. Starting out in the ancient capital of Xi'an and finishing in the extraordinary Islamic city of Kashgar, we'll be exploring how the Silk Road shaped the places and the lives of the people in this part of the world. Our journey will take us through scorching deserts, soaring mountains, bustling cities and awe-inspiring ancient monuments. animals, whilst all the while hearing the incredible stories of those people who make the region one of the most fascinatingly diverse places on the planet. Welcome to the Chinese Silk Road. We've made the long journey from Urumqi to the city of Kashgar, and today is the busiest day of the week for many of the locals. It's a Sunday here in Kashgar, and traders and farmers have come from all over the province, bringing almost any kind of livestock imaginable to be sold, traded, or even eaten. Welcome to the Kashgar cattle market. This place is a hive of local business, with huge amounts of bidding coming from all over. In the days of the Silk Road, merchants would stop here on their long journey looking for a deal on their desired animal, most often a camel or two for the desert, or a sturdy horse or mule to take them over the mountains. And of course, traders would want to be sure that they were getting a good deal for the price that they were paying. So here at the back of the market, just like in your local car dealership, you can actually try before you buy, just to make sure that what you are getting is the right purchase for you. And whilst some seemed to find their match straight away, it was clear that others still had some searching to do. The market, however, is not just about the buying and selling of the animals. Many people actually come here just for a bit of Sunday lunch, with no prizes for guessing what's on the menu. Most of what is on offer was walking around this morning. It could not get any fresher than this food right here. I can really imagine the traders of the Silk Road eating this kind of food before their long journey out west into the mountains of Central Asia or east into the deserts of China. The market was no doubt a great place for Silk Road traders to tuck in. But if you're a little bit squeamish, this might not be the place for you. By the time lunch had finished, the market had started to quieten down, and most of the traders were clearing up ready for home. So, we decided to hop on the back of a cattle truck and head to the city centre of Kashgar. Kashgar itself is an oasis city that is situated on the border with Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan, and is actually closer to Turkey than it is to Beijing. This was where several branches of the Silk Road met, and it's been an epicenter of trade and cultural exchange for more than 2,000 years. Although in modern times, Kashgar may not quite hold the same significance as it once had, it retains an incredible charm and spirit which is impossible to ignore. Tucked away in the heart of Kashgar is a place unlike anywhere else in the whole of China. The Old City, which is often referred to as a perfect preservation of an ancient Islamic town. This is Kashgar Old City, a place with more than 2,000 years of history. The centuries-old buildings and the twisted, winding, cobbled streets really give this place a unique and almost timeless feel. Walking through the streets of the Old City is like peering through a window in time. the lives and traditions of those who live here displays an affirming sense of connection and community that harks back to times gone by. To find out more about life in the old city, I met up with local Mandarin teacher Adili, who is Kashgar born and raised.
这里呢，就是我们的喀什老城区。这个地方呢，有2000多年历史，而且每家每户都是有人的。这个地方呢，就是代代相传，已经住了好几代人了。这里最有名的就是我们各个手工匠人做出来的手工艺品，比如说木匠、陶匠、铁匠什么的。待会儿我们还可以去看一下他们现场操作。
可以。Kashgar is famous for all kinds of different handmade crafts, from metalwork for common everyday items to clothing and jewellery of outstanding detail and beauty. Perhaps Kashgar's most famous craft is woodwork, and the streets of the old city are littered with tiny workshops where craftsmen work away daily, producing an eclectic variety of hand-carved goods, just as their ancestors have done for hundreds of years.
Bu burundan ilgirden tatip bayil. Terepten bu bada yüzgünüp kelgendiğin ki benim ustamın ustası Elcan'da görmüş, Kashgar'da kışkışçılık kılıp ötep gitip ustam ürgengen, ustam Hüseyin Hacım deyimiz. Ona deyin ki biz şagird olarak ürgendik. 46 yıl oldu ben, ona 15 yaş vaktini şagird olgan ustamga.Üşerim için ustamdan kışkışçılık. Serittik edemiz, Hüseyin Hacım deyimiz, ben ustam şagirçılık ürgengen.
Majority of these crafts are sold here in Kashgar, but in true Silk Road fashion, many of the items made in these tiny workshops are sold in various locations all over the globe.
Özümüz kırganlardan şu anda var. Bunu özümüz kılıp terep taktığımızdan burada eksilgan var. Hazırmışda Türkiye'ye eksilgan şakmak var. Burada madde İslamlık yoktu ama kolumuzda kamalcıdan tartıştık. Buraya gelip 86. yılı bir Şanghay'a geçeceğim ben. Şu vakit zamanında Kayso yoldaşlar çok sıkışıkanı körep geldiği için bizim icat yapan dükkan bana.
Despite the advance in modern machinery, the popularity and demand for Kashgar-made handicrafts is just as strong as ever.
Kashgar buna ekşi hem de kolları bence Şirittin özü bana kişilikten toplaşkan iş bombagandan keyin zavutlaşkan iş bağlagan bilen uşak sanat Kashgar'da yukarı kolları ki. Şu arkalık özümüz Müslüman turmuş kandayımızda müşünlerden bulup gittik.
So what we have here is a spice jar. Now you can tell instantly that the quality is very, very good. Now the design is very basic and this actually only took him about 5 or 10 minutes to make, but you can really tell that the quality is just fantastic. You can see from the way that he works and also from the products that he makes that Kashgar's reputation for handmade goods is really very well founded. Our time in Kashgar was almost at a close, and I realised that I was yet to pick up any mementos for our trip on the Silk Road. So, for our final stop, we dropped into a local shop for doppers, the headwear worn by almost every local Muslim citizen.
Biz men uçakka billa qılıbatımız bu kesipni. Men 5-ci avlat okuçuyum. Bana tarih etsek, bu dopan tarihi bizdeki Uygurlarning burundan tatib milliy qo'llanmachilik san'at bölümlerinin qatoriga bir xil o'zimiz kelgan sen bosh kiyimi. Buning gösterish jarayoni desek, buni ayollar qo'lida gulini va ushaq gullarni qo'lda kesib, qo'lda tikadi. Anandan keyin buniga bu ichiga materiallarda piltirib degandek qo'ndirib, aynan keyin qilib silib, yog'och qilib bor. Yog'och qilib qoldirib, buningda shikar berib qoldirib, aynan keyin kiyimiz zaletdi. Ammo qo'limga mavdopansam bu qo'lda ishlangan çimen dopa. O ayollarniki giren taşken. Mavu edles dopa. Mavu macan dopa. Hem de her kayıs caydaki, her kayıs urlardaki, urlarniki, kiyimniki, dopanınki türleri okşaş olmaydı. Bu bir kadimlikli miras sifatida saqlanib bazı kadar davomli kelayotgan bir bizniki muhim milliy alayidligimiz.
These guys produce, obviously, a lot of hats for the local people here in Kashgar. And what is really great to see is that, you know, people have really put so much effort into this that each particular hat looks like an individual work of art. You know, it's really great to see that people take such great care and attention about the work that they do.
And with that, right at the end of our journey, I finally had my souvenir.
What do you think?
The ancient city of Kashgar offers a great insight into the culture of Islamic China, and is a perfect embodiment of a city that has been influenced by the Silk Road. However, as China's westernmost city, this is where our journey must finish.
So, our journey along the Chinese Silk Road is finally at an end. Here in the city of Kashgar, we're over 3,700 kilometers away from our starting point in Xi'an, and 4,500 kilometers away from the Chinese capital of Beijing. And yet, here we are, still in China. In truth, we've actually only scratched the surface of the Silk Road, which would have run right the way through Central Asia and all the way to Europe. Nevertheless, we've seen some fantastic places and some incredible people. It's been a brilliant journey, and one that's totally unforgettable.